They got my memos about the 6 water and need updated. Everybody hear me okay? All right, perfect. So yes, they got my memo about the 6 waters I need upstage. That's fantastic. A few things that are guaranteed to happen today. Number one, I'm gonna set this clicker down and not remember where I left it. So if somebody could keep an eye on that for me, that would be fantastic. Number two, I'm going to casually and accidentally swear at you. That is not something that I can control. I was raised by a truck driver. It's ingrained in me. I apologize. So it's going to happen. And the third thing is we're gonna talk about ways to improve your business. As a function of talking about ways to improve your business, we're going to talk a little bit about MOXI. They said, hey, can you come in right after lunch and talk to people who are either completely sold or completely against a technology for an hour? And I said, that doesn't seem like we're going to have a great time. But what we are going to do, like I said, we're going to have a conversation. We are going to be up and out of our chairs for portions of this conversation. And we're going to discuss how to improve your business, improve your lead generation, get more leads, and do less work in order to do that. Do all of those things sound like a win for you? Yeah. Excellent. Very good. So without giving too much away, have a little discussion at your table. Do you control your brand? And I ask this question very specifically. It's not a matter of do you have a brand? That's not the question. You do. Everybody in this room has a brand. The question is, are you in control of your brand? So have a discussion with the folks that you're sitting with at your table and talk about, are you in control of your brand? Talk for 2 minutes. On your marks, get set, go. All right, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Excellent. Let's bring the focus right back up here. Very good. So let's see a raise of hands. How many folks just proclaimed publicly for at least 8 people to hear that you are in control of your brand? Go ahead and raise a hand for me. Excellent. How many folks know that you could probably still do a little bit of work around controlling your brand? That's good. And how many folks are like, oh, I didn't realize I had one? There's a few of those as well. Perfect. And so that's really the crux of today's conversation is you have a brand. The question is, are you in control of it? So I want to tell you a quick story. How many folks, this looks like a room that might remember the first attempt at a little sporting program called the XFL. Does anybody remember the first round of the XFL? A couple of folks. So for those that are unfamiliar, the XFL is an excellent understanding of what happens when brand and product do not line up, okay? Because what happened was you had some of the best branding people in the entire world, the people behind the World Wrestling Federation or World Wrestling Entertainment, that decided that they wanted to get into the football game. And so they said, we're going to compete, we're going to create a competitor for the NFL, we're going to call it the XFL, we're going to get rid of a lot of the rules that keep players safe because that's what people want to see, and then we're going to put this thing on TV. So what they did was they came up with this whole marketing scheme around the XFL. They had sponsors signed up, they had stadiums signed up to host these games, they had every bit of TV time taken care of, they had branding, they were selling jerseys, helmets, and footballs before they had ever signed a player. And that was 9 months before they were supposed to start this season. So when we talk about brand, it's an excellent idea of what brand is. So they get all of this stuff together. They have all of this amazing branding that they're pushing. They get to the first week. The only players that will sign for the league are people who didn't make the NFL, people who couldn't get a football job after college. So it's not the highest quality product that they're putting on the field. Nobody was in charge of quality control for the actual game. They didn't have time to test any of the new rules or anything like that. So in the very first game of the XFL that was on primetime TV, they ended up starting like 25 minutes late because Mariah Carey was on Saturday Night Live that night. That's a whole different story. But the other thing that happened was, so y'all are familiar with the football kickoff, right? You kick the ball, it goes down the field, somebody catches it, either downs it or tries to run it back. Well, in the XFL, what they did is they put it like dodgeball rules in middle school. They set the ball in the middle of the field and had players from each end of the field sprint to the ball in the middle, and the first one that got there gets the ball, right? So they had 2 broken legs on the first play of the first game because people were just full tilt on this thing, right? The other thing that happened was they didn't check the footballs that they were using for this event. And the people who were doing the branding needed it to look a certain way on TV. And so they took all of the things that make a football grippy off of the football. And so for the first game, there were something like 27 fumbles, 9 interceptions. It was one of the worst quality sporting products that you could ever have put on TV. But they had a viewership that nobody counted on, nobody expected. Nobody had any idea they would get this viewership. They had sold jerseys, they had stadiums, they had all of this stuff because the brand was on point, but the product didn't line up with the brand. And so that's a lesson in branding. The Detroit Lions, how many folks are familiar? That's good. We've heard of them this year. Many of us have the wrinkles that you've been fans for a long time. That's not an old joke. That's a Lions quality joke, by the way. That's my dad was a Lions fan for a long time, and he always said, you know, someday they're going to make the playoffs, and this might be that year. But the Lions are another perfect example of great brand, but the quality has not always been there. So the Detroit Football Lions, traditionally, what are they known for? Yeah, losing. That's exactly right. You nailed it right out of the gate. But how many times have they not sold out their stadium? There was one time in the season where they didn't win a game that they didn't sell out the stadium since 1957. So when we talk about a brand and we talk about people being bought into a brand, even though the product isn't always as quality as we want it to be, the Detroit Lions are a great example. And now what's happening? Now that the brand or that the quality is aligned with the brand, what's happening with the Lions? Has anybody looked at a Lions ticket this season? Unaffordable. I was at the airport. I was at DTW on the day before the Lions-Ravens game. And there were Detroit fans. Every flight to Baltimore that day was full, or anywhere around Baltimore was full, because it's now cheaper to fly to a different city and buy a Lions ticket than it is to get one in Detroit. So when you talk about having a brand that stands the test of time, that even if the quality is not there, you still sell tickets and seats. The Detroit Lions are a great example of that. And now we see what's happening when the quality of the product is aligned with the quality of the brand. Now, for every person in this room, can you raise your hand and say that the quality of your product is already top-notch? This should be everybody. This one means yes, generally. This one means no. Okay, good. So the good news is you're already starting out better than these 2 organizations that we just talked about, the XFL, the Detroit Lions. You're already starting out in a better spot because your product, the thing that you do, being a real estate professional, is already of a level of quality that you don't have to worry about that. So now imagine what happens when we have a brand to match the quality, right? That's what we're going to talk about today. So I already almost did it once, but luckily there's only one table here. All right. So anytime that we talk about technology adoption, anytime we talk about using a new product or using a new anything, you naturally go into 3 different categories. When you looked at the agenda today, what happened was your brain started to go to work. We're going to talk a little bit of brain chemistry here. Your brain started to go to work, and your brain put you in a category. You may or may not have made a decision yourself, but your brain put you in one of three categories. You looked at the agenda, you saw 2 sessions on MOXI Works, and you put yourself into one of 3 categories. Category 1 is prisoner. You are going to sit and listen and do what you're told because you're forced to, and you have to because you're here, right? Category number 2, vacationer. Hey, why not? We'll hear about it, I'm sure, one more time, right? And then category number 3 is learner. Now, this is true of any activity that you engage in. I come from a long line of experiential learning. Before I was in real estate, I was in mortgage, and before I was in mortgage, I ran programs for kids in the court system. And I'll tell you what, mortgage brokers and kids in the court system, very similar populations. But don't tell your mortgage broker friends I said that. But any experience that you have, your brain naturally puts you into one of these 3 categories of prisoner, vacationer, or learner. You make a decision before you ever engage in the activity how you are going to show up to that activity. So for today's purposes, because I'm leading this session on branding and MOXI Works, I'm going to lead one right after this on breaking into commercial. That's my day job, by the way. I didn't say that. I run training for our Coldwell Banker commercial group. And so I'm going to talk commercial training right after this. So please join me there if you want to learn more about that. But, and then we're doing another session on MOXI, and what you're going to walk out of that second session with is a plan. What your first speaker talked about, what Hal discussed, is a plan of how to engage, and that's what you're going to walk out of that second session with. You're not only going to have a marketing plan to kick off 2024, but you are also going to have signed up for the classes that you need to take to reinforce your knowledge about the products that are going to help you achieve the goals that you want in 2024. How many people have written your GCI down on a piece of paper that you want to earn in 2024? How many folks have done that? Excellent. If your hand is not in the air, please make a mental note. You cannot achieve what you want to achieve without writing it down first. A goal without a plan is nothing, right? I think Eisenhower said the process of planning is often useless, or the plan is useless, but the process of planning is indispensable. I think Mike Tyson said it differently, and he said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And so 2024 has high potential to punch us in the mouth. And so the right thing to do is to walk into it with a plan. And that's what you're going to walk out of the next session with, is a plan on how you're going to leverage your brand, leverage the great things that you're doing, and then be able to put that on paper and take action towards making that plan a reality. So join us for that next one. But when you walk into a session, and when you walked into this today, you put yourself in one of these categories. For the purposes of today, I'm unconcerned with which category you are starting in. If you are starting in the prisoner category with the technologies that we're going to talk about, MOXI and some others, that's okay. I understand that. I have used technologies that I don't like as well. And I've also found that they are incredibly beneficial once I get the practice with them that I need. So cool. If you're a prisoner, awesome. If you're a vacationer, also fine, works for me. You're here, you might learn some stuff, and it might make a difference in your business next year. And if you're a learner, if you're in that category, how many folks are using MOXI regularly and you've seen a difference in your business because of it? Excellent. So you're probably in that learner category. And so what that means is, if you're in the prisoner category, the only thing I'm asking you to do is take one step towards the next category. So if you're a prisoner, move into being a vacationer today. If you're a vacationer, move into being a learner today. And if you are a learner, work on wrapping your arm around the person next to you and bringing them with you into that category. Is that a commitment that we can make? If so, give me a thumbs up. Excellent, half the group. Okay, that's fine. We'll win the rest of you. So let's shout out a couple of those things. How do you know that you are in control of your brand? What are some of the things that you talked about at your table? This can be anyone. Yeah. Okay.
He goes out for like.
Awesome. Yeah. So the answer was, I know I'm in control of my brand because I've built a lot of my brand through social media. My husband is not on social media, but when he goes out, he hears, "Aren't you that realtor's husband?" That's how we know we're in control of our brand. So let's give a hand to that, first of all. That is good brand recognition. Now, what they say after that also matters, but that's okay. We'll discover that in a different session. I charge more per hour for those sessions. But who else? How else do you know you're in control of your brand? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So that recognition, people understanding who you are, and the business that exists in the area. When you look at percentage and breakdown and demographics of the area, you are pulling in the majority of that business. That's how you know you're in control and that you have a good brand, right? Excellent. Let's hear from one more.
Lead source.
Lead source. Say more about that.
Again, both through my website, also with Facebook, I generate leads every single week consistently. And for those of you that are doing business, I just give away my leads, don't I, John?
Yeah.
So, sign up for an hour with me and you might get a lead then.
There we go. So yes, it is. It's the idea that you need to be generating leads with social media. Again, goals without metrics are useless. And we're going to talk about how to capture some of these metrics. If you're blasting out a whole bunch of stuff on social and you post every single day, multiple times a day, and you do all that, but nobody's looking at it, who gives a shit, right? It doesn't matter. Oh, I told you I was going to casually. Okay, we already covered that. Doesn't matter if you're blasting stuff out there. What matters is, are people seeing with it? Are people seeing it? And are people interacting with it? Because if they're not seeing it and they're not interacting with it, then you might as well be yelling into the Grand Canyon. Doesn't matter, right? And so we're going to talk more about how we can do that. But that idea of, do you control your brand, is one that we're going to explore a little bit more right now. So everybody go ahead and pop up out of your chairs. And now one of the things that happens that I've spoken at enough conferences that I understand this, that collective groan that just happened. But also B, you come to a conference like this and you think, I'm going to network, I'm going to meet new people. And then you sit next to the people you came with and that's the only people you talk to all day. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, when I say go and not before then, I'm going to ask you to move at least 2 tables away from where you are right now and find a person that you didn't know before walking into the room today. In that time, what I want you thinking about is, what is your brand? How are you known, or how do you want to be known? And then your 60-second elevator pitch for your brand. So what is your 60 seconds? When you introduce yourself to somebody, what is your 60-second pitch to introduce yourself to somebody new who doesn't know you and doesn't know your brand? Find a new person and give them your 60-second elevator pitch, and then receive theirs. On your marks, get set, and go. All right, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, clap 4 times. Excellent. If the person you are sitting next to or standing next to is still talking, clap them. Very good. And don't sit down just yet. We got more work to do. Let's bring the focus and attention right back up here. All right. Excellent. Go ahead and wrap your conversations up. If you're next to somebody who's still talking, tap them on the shoulder. Let them know that time is over for now. It's funny, I'll tell you what, one problem for speakers at conferences in the real estate industry is not, will the crowd interact with each other? That's never an issue we run into. A couple of folks, I know that you have probably right out of the box prepared elevator pitches or 60-second speeches that you give. How many folks felt really comfortable walking into what you just did? Awesome. How many folks felt incredibly uncomfortable doing what you just did? Very good. We're going to do it again for those folks. What I want you to do is, I want you to think about the pitch that you just gave. And if you do need to sit down for this part, that's okay. I want you to take 30 seconds on the pitch that you just gave. and I want you to make mental adjustments to it. If you want to write something down, if you want to get a couple of bullet points on paper, whatever you want to do for the next 30 seconds, I want you to make improvements to the pitch that you just gave, okay? Take 30 seconds to do that, and then we're going to run that back. We're going to do it again with a new person, okay? 30 seconds, on your mark, make improvements to your pitch, go. All right, that is wrapping up your improvement time. Now again, please rise to your hind legs, find someone 2 tables away from you, and give the second version of your conversation. On your marks, get set, and go. All right. So let's hear a little bit about how that went. And let's do a little compare and contrast. For the first elevator pitch that you did, where I gave you limited instructions, 60 seconds to pitch yourself, think about it for 10 seconds or less, and then just go find someone new and pitch who you are and what your brand is. How was that for you? Let's hear from 1 or 2 folks. That first round of that, how was it for you? Back in the back. Let's hear it nice and loud. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So what's more important to focus on? Distill my entire personality into 60 seconds and focus on the right thing in that first 60-second time frame. Thank you, Dylan, very much. Give Dylan a hand. Let's hear from one more. That first 60-second elevator pitch, how was that for you? Maybe from somebody who felt confident doing it. You've been to enough networking events, you know the Chamber of Commerce by first name, and you've run for their board spots. Some of those folks. What was that first round like for you? Pretty good? Say more. Yeah. Absolutely. So felt confident walking in. I know that I can ask questions of somebody else and get information from them. And I know that I can demonstrate the value that I bring to a transaction, and I can do that very quickly, right? That is a great example of 2 ends of the spectrum right there. Both are good places to be. Just starting out and understanding what your value is, and then being on the other end where you have a high understanding of your value and what you bring to the transaction. Both great places to be. Now, let me ask you this. For the second round of that, and I'll just take a show of hands on this one, where you had some time to plan, 30 seconds to sit down, write some things down, check in with the person you gave the first pitch to, make some improvements to your pitch overall. How many folks felt more comfortable the second time than the first time? Raise your hands for me. Excellent. And if we looked around, you saw it was more than half of the room feeling more comfortable that second time. Now, I do that intentionally because one of the things that we see with technology is we have folks that fall all along this curve. This is the adoption curve for any new thing that rolls out. If you haven't seen this before, you can Google it. This is a well-studied thing that happens. And folks fall into these categories. Number one, the innovators. These are the folks that were in line in 2007 at 4 in the morning for the first iPhone that they could ever get their hands on, right? These are the folks that will spend time figuring out, breaking new technology. They'll be the ones that are in the beta testing for it. That 2.5% of folks fall into that innovators category. The next category, 13.5%, are what we call early adopters. These are folks that they don't necessarily want to be in the innovators category because innovators deal with a lot of bugs, issues, problems that need to be corrected. They don't want to be there. What they do want is they want to be the earliest folks in to learn the new thing so that they have a competitive advantage based on that thing. Does that make sense for everybody? This one means yes. Okay, good. Next, we have the early majority. This is 34% of folks. They are, after these cowboys have taken a shot at it in those first two categories, the early majority are like, yeah, I'm on board. Now the bugs are fixed out. I'm on version 2.0 or 3.0. I didn't lose more competitive advantage than time I would have lost figuring out bugs. Okay, that's our early majority. Our late majority are the folks who are like, oh shit, everybody else is doing this, I better do it too, right? If I had a little "you are here" arrow, that's where I'd be for MOXI right now. And then the laggards, which seems derogatory, but these are folks who are like, okay, everybody else is doing it, I need to do it to keep up. You have moved from this is going to give me a competitive advantage in my business to I need to do this to keep pace. It becomes a have to instead of a want to. And the other thing that's true about this category, the laggards category, is folks that fall into this category learn the basic minimums of the thing that they need to learn in order to keep up. They're not going above and beyond. They're not learning all the ins and outs. They're not learning how these things integrate with each other. How many folks are, when it comes to technology, how many folks are, whether you choose Android or Apple, all of your products are from that family, right? All of my products are from the Apple family. We're not here to debate the merits. I know battery life and all that. But like my phone's on a charger right now, I get it. But when you can make all of this stuff work together, and you are in one of those first three categories of the early majority, the early adopters, or the innovators, what tends to happen is you figure out the systems better and you build more efficiency. The old CEO at the company that I used to work for used to say, let's let computers do what computers do, so that humans can do what humans do. And the thing that you do best is sell homes. Am I correct in that? I mean, yeah, parenting and all that other stuff. Yeah, fine. But that's a joke, which is okay to laugh. I'll make several of those. Feel free to come along if you want to. But the early majority, the early adopters, and the innovators are the folks who can weave all of these technologies together so that you can spend less time doing what a computer can be doing for you and more time doing the thing that only humans can do. MOXI cannot walk into a networking meeting and introduce you to the people in that room. It can't do that. It's a computer technology. It doesn't possess the ability to do that. The most powerful generative AI cannot walk into a client's home and make them feel comfortable doing a transaction in the way that you can. Those are the things that humans should be doing. Can we agree on that? Excellent. So if those are the things that humans should be doing, bringing the human edge to the business that you do, then let's let computers do the things that computers are supposed to do. How many folks are working with any sort of generative AI right now? Excellent. How many folks have put your name into ChatGPT and you signed up for an account and then you got scared that it was going to launch Skynet and so you shut everything down and you ran away? That's some other folks in the room. That's okay. So this is suggestion number one that I have for you, and I want you to write this down. Suggestion number one, this is outside of MOXI. MOXI uses some generative AI to power their tool, but suggestion number one, use and get familiar with generative AI. ChatGPT is a good starting point for that. If it does not say generative AI in the title of what you're looking at, it's probably a sales pitch and not a good product. So generative AI, just start playing around with it. We are still in one of the first two categories with generative AI right now. You are an innovator or an early adopter if you learn how to use this product right now. I'll tell you some of the advantage. I taught a class the other day for our commercial sales representatives on prospecting and cold calling and pitching, right? we went to ChatGPT. I said, give me a cold calling script. This was for a class for Coldwell Banker, but it's true for anyone. Give me a cold calling script for a commercial real estate agent from Coldwell Banker Premier Properties is who I was working with. ChatGPT wrote an entire cold call script for a commercial real estate professional in less than 30 seconds. How many folks have trouble with that cold call, right? You have trouble picking up the phone and calling a potential client. Now, there are some legal troubles around that we don't need to get into today as well, so just make sure you're paying attention to the do not call list, all of the normal regulations. But the point is, you can use these technologies. You can be in the early adopter category with some of these technologies right now. ChatGPT is a great one to start with. Now, I already mentioned, we are in the early majority or late majority category for MOXI Works and all of the amazing things that this thing can do. So again, raise your hand if you're one of those folks that are using this and has made a difference in your business. Congratulations, you were probably in one of the early adopter or early majority categories. That's a win for you. Now, the good news is for everybody else in the room, it's not a loss for you yet because you are not in that last category of the laggards. You still have an opportunity to be in the late early majority or the late majority. And that means that this still offers a competitive advantage to your business. One of the things that I hear all the time from folks is, why do I need to learn this when we're just going to come out with something else in 5 years and then I'm going to have to learn that? It's like, well, yeah, I get that. But does that mean you're not going to do business for 5 years? You're not going to have a competitive advantage in your business for 5 years because you don't want to take the time to learn something new? It doesn't make sense. It's not a logical way to approach an entrepreneurial business, right? And so let's talk about what does that mean? So MOXI Engage and MOXI Present. These are two of the products that are in the MOXI suite. What it boils down to is this. This is a quote from one of our MOXI Power users. You MOXI a little bit, you see a little success. You use it a lot, you're going to see a lot of success. We already saw a ton of hands go up that you are a single device household, that everything, if you have an Apple phone, you also have the Apple Home and the earbuds and everything Apple because it all integrates and syncs really well together, right? MOXI is the exact same way. All of these product suites work this way together. So when we see this, we see high usage, we see more close transactions in both of these, MOXI Engage and MOXI Present. You MOXI more, you get more results. So that's number one. Number two, some other stats for you, MOXI Engage, we see these percentage differences in somebody's business. So I'll let you take a picture of those. For those that are stats focused, the numbers play out with this. But the numbers play out with this because it's a logical conclusion to using a technology to its fullest capability. How many folks have been into the MOXI suite of products, spent 10 minutes in there, said, this is dumb, I'm not doing this, and shut it off? Same thing that many of you did with ChatGPT, right? Because here's the issue. No new technology is intuitive. There are zero new technologies that are intuitive. The first touchscreen phone was a nightmare for people to use. But we forget about that. It's a thing called survivorship bias. Only the good stories have lasted the test of time. We forget about that. Do you remember how many folks were around when the internet was invented? Do you remember that? Do you remember the 14.4K modem that you used to have to dial up? And if somebody picked up the phone in your house, it kicked you off of the damn thing? Yes, exactly. So that's one of the issues with being an early adopter is you have to suffer through all of that stuff. There's no new technology that rolls out that is an intuitive technology. We only convince ourselves that that is true as we get further and further away from the rollout of that technology. So why not be in the first group? Why not be in the early adopters of this group so that you can get the most out of the product for the longest amount of time? If I'm looking at a product timeline and I say something new is going to come along in 5 years anyway, so why should I learn this? You better damn well believe I'm going to learn that thing in year 1 instead of year 4, right? Doesn't make sense to not do that. So let's dive in a little bit. Here's the MOXI Work Suite. Here are all of the products that you currently can take advantage of. MOXI Engage, MOXI Present, MOXI Websites, MOXI Impress, and MOXI Talent. How many folks are using the majority or all of these currently? Excellent. See those hands in the air? Keep those hands real high up in the air. These are the folks that if your hand is not in the air right now, you should go talk to them at the break and find out what they're doing that is different than you. Because what they're doing is closing transactions. That's what's different than you, okay? That's not an insult, that's a fact. So next, all of these work together and they all build a cohesive ecosystem. How many folks, whether you've been sober when you did it or not, have eaten at a Taco Bell? Okay, good, that's the majority. So Taco Bell had this really famous moment in business history. How many people have heard of something called a poke yoke? Anybody ever heard of that? That's not a menu item at Taco Bell. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. A poke yoke is, it's a Japanese word that basically, the definition of it is you design a solution that keeps the thing from happening that you don't want to happen. Okay, and so as an example of that, Taco Bell had this issue. So Taco Bell used to serve their food on trays, and then you got your tray and you walked to your table with it inside of their fast food restaurant, right? What was happening with the trays? Can anybody take a guess? People were stealing them. That, I mean, dicey if you want to go sledding, I suppose, but that's a joke that only works in like Michigan and 2 other states. That's good. But the other thing, yeah, folks were throwing them away, because they had the big push garbage cans and then you put your tray in there and you just drop the whole tray in, right? So they were losing millions of dollars. If you think about that happening multiple times a day over thousands of restaurants, they're losing millions of dollars a year on these plastic trays. And so what they did was they redesigned the garbage can, the mouth of the garbage can, so that the tray couldn't fit. So people stopped throwing away trays. Like, you had to really try to throw away a tray after this garbage can lid came out. You had to lift the whole lid off the garbage can and throw away trays. Now, that's the other fun part about people. There will always be a portion of people that do what I call getting dressed hat first. They will think of the most unconventional way to engage in a process, and that's how they will engage. So you're never going to solve for all of that. But what you can do, and what MOXI does a really nice job of when you use the whole suite together, is you can build yourself a poke yoke that allows you to have success, not just avoid failure, but have success. You can put the barriers to failure in place in a way that gives you repeatable success when you use one of these products. And then if you use all of them together, what you find is that you have a recipe for more closed transactions. So we can go through all of this, maybe, but MOXI Engage, we talk about direct sync with brokerage platform, email, MLS integration, workflow management. These are things that I'm guessing everybody in this room is already familiar, at least enough with the name MOXI, because it's probably been talked to you about several times, right? So you know at least enough about these products that I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. But MOXI Impress, power of automation, there is some generative AI involved in this product. What are folks using it for? How do we update our listings? And how do we get information into the system? These are some of the marketing packages that you can create, some of the examples of things that you can do. Next, we have MOXI Present. This allows you types of presentations, interactive CMA tool, integrates with your MLS, in-depth market analysis, customized and branded. This is all plugged into our system so that you can enter branding and you can have it look and feel how you want it to feel. And then MOXI websites. How many folks have set up your website using MOXI? Excellent. So this is probably the easiest entry point. If you're one of those folks that is like, I don't want to learn something new, this is probably one of the easiest entry points. This is what you see is what you get. You click, you drag, you point, you hit enter, and you get a thing that comes out. In the world of the at-risk youth that I used to work with, we would call that instant gratification. You do thing A, it results in thing B. Thing B is good. Your brain releases the right chemicals. Those chemicals go to the right receptors. You feel good about yourself for the day. So if you are concerned about entry point with MOXI Works, start with MOXI websites. It's the easiest thing to start with. It will help you build confidence. It's like, I'm sure everybody by now has seen that TED talk about make your bed first in the morning. That way you check something off of your list, you feel good about yourself for the day, you release the endorphins. All of that, MOXI websites is making your bed first in the morning. Try this product first. You'll understand the ease at which you can do these things. So that is, let's call it session 1 of 3 today. But I want to stress a couple of things. Number 1, actually, let me ask a question first. Let me go here first. Who is brave enough to have a conversation and a question? Excellent. Your name? Jamie. Jamie, when you pull up to a stop sign, what do? Every time? Yeah. Okay. Why do you, how many folks are in the same category as Jamie? You pull up to a stop sign or a stoplight, you stop. Now put your hand down if that's not 100% of the time. Okay. Jamie, when you stop, why do you stop? Because it tells you to, okay? Other folks, why do you stop? Yeah. So no one else hits you. It's a self-preservation thing, right? Interesting that your answer wasn't, so I don't hit anybody else. That's a different conversation. Who else? Why do you stop at that light? It's the law. Yes, there's a legal penalty involved. We don't want to be victim to that legal penalty. As a white guy who drives a minivan, I don't have to worry about traffic law. I'm above it. That's a fact. That's a life hack for any white males in the audience. If you're a white guy that drives a minivan, you don't get pulled over. These are jokes. It's okay. You can, everyone can unclench. So all of those are great reasons. And all of those reasons about why you stop at the stop sign are what we in the industry call bullshit. The reason that you stop at a stop sign is because you make a choice to take your foot off of the gas and apply it to the brake. Everything that happens after that is a result and positive or negative consequence to the choice that you made. I'll ask again, how many folks raise your hands, and you, if you want people around you to close their eyes, that's okay. But raise your hand if you've made the choice not to stop at that light or sign in the past. Yeah. And I am 100% sure in that moment you felt justified in that choice, right? Okay, so that proves the point that it is a choice. 100% of the things that you do are a choice. You make a choice to take your foot off of the gas and apply it to the brake, and that's why you stop at the stop sign. The same is true for any technology, ChatGPT, MOXI works, the internet when you first started using it. It is all universally true that the reason that you do something is because you make the choice to do it, and the reason you don't do something is because you make the choice not to do it. So that's the only thing standing between you and adoption of a technology that will help you close more transactions, proven in the numbers to help you close more transactions. The only thing stopping you from using it is the choice that you make every day not to. So we'll see you in the next couple of sessions. Thank you all very much for your time. Have a fantastic afternoon.